Hi, this is Ed Melton from ERM Performance Tuning, and I'm here to bring you another in a continuing series of HP Tuners version 3.0 how-to tutorial videos on the scanner. So today's video is going to basically run you through how to set up for your Gen 3 idle tuning, which was a question that we had on the forum the other day. And it's going to basically utilize a lot of your 2.24 stuff that people there's also been a lot of questions as to how you can go about and migrate things over easily. So we're going to start out with obviously the channels, the charts, and the graphs. You should have an understanding of how they operate. So the channels are going to provide all of the parameters, as they're called today, or PIDs back in the 224 days, that you would want to scan as far as the idle tuning goes. I've got it preset now to the default so that we can look at how it would look as we were to bringing in each one of our new channels. Now, if you have 224 already set up and you have specific logs relative to your idle tuning, then you're almost done as far as the channels go. Because very easily, all you need to do is to open up a log, and by opening that log, it will repopulate the channels with all of the PIDs that you had previously selected to do your idle tuning. And you can kind of see that in my particular case, these are the ones that I have selected at this point in time for my example. The thing to do now is basically you want to save that so that you have it come the next time you want to use it. So I've saved it under Ed's idle. So very simply, you would just come down, type in whatever the file name was, and just say save. All right. And you now have that forever. You can, each time you come up and need to do idle tuning, you can just call up your channels and that will automatically be set there. So there was nothing to do there. So that was pretty simple. The hard part will be setting up the chart. And that's done basically the same way as it was in 224. And there's been several tutorials on how to set this up in 3.0 as well. But my recommendation, and what I try to do is when I'm setting up my charts, is I set them up into various different groups and sub-series so that I can go get them whenever I want to. Um, and what I mean by that is I set them up into various different groups, RPM, airflow, long-term, short-term trim. So each one of these folders will contain various groupings or of series that make up each one of these particular chart groups. So in this particular case, I have one that's called in group 6. And grouping is it's indiscriminate. It really doesn't matter. But the bottom line is these are my Gen 3 idle tuning charts, and there's 5 that I've saved away so far, and they basically just are made up of 4 elements. I try to keep it to 4 of series, and this particular one is the in gear, right? Long term, short term, AC on and off. This one is the park and neutral. This one is relative to any drive-by cable applications that you might have. So it's got the IAC desired position. It's got the TPS voltage. So if you need to do your throttle plate set screw settings and TPS percents. And then these last 2 are kind of miscellaneous stuff with startup airflow, follower, cracker, idle base sum, and this one in particular interest that we have today will be the one that would have the idle desired airflow, which was something that we need to log. So you will have to go about and set those up before you get started as far as this goes. But save them away, save them in the groupings, and then they're readily available to you whenever you need them. So I've gone ahead and obviously we already have that set up. The next thing is that we need to bring in the graph, or what was previously known as histograms. And if you have a histogram that's already been set up, well, guess what? It's just like the channel. All we need to do is right-click, graphs layout, go to open the layout file, and when you go open the layout file, you're going to be, and you may have to work this a little bit, but what you want to do is you want to get back to the HP Tuners VCM scanner folder. And when you do that, you're going to see all of the specific folders that are relative to the graphs, the gauges, the configs, and all the other things. And you've got to find one that's called histograms. And when you downloaded 3.0, it would have taken all of your histograms from 224 and saved them for you. So whatever you got built under 224 is readily available under 3.0. And in this particular case, the idea here is that we would want to basically log the desired airflow. If you have one, an idle desired airflow rather, if you have one already developed under your custom PIDs, histograms rather, that you would have set up previously, then it's very simply as you go find it. This is the one that I had set up a while ago for my 2004 vet. You double click it. A little warning will come up and it'll say it's going to import it over and it's going to do the best it can. Now, sometimes there are issues relative to, usually it's in the column access and the row accesses or the tables that have been set up. But in this particular case, we can actually see that it did bring in the right table, which is relative to the tune file that you're operating off of. So if I click OK, so the only thing that we can see here that doesn't look like it came in perfect is that obviously we're looking at a Celsius gauge, so it does say Fahrenheit. So the only correction you would have to do at this point would be just to change this to Celsius, and then the charts would appear just as you had identified them previously. And so this is what would fill in with the idle desired as it was going. Now, if you didn't have one, then again, it's really not that hard to do. Basically, we're going to go into graphs layout and we're going to go open up one of the canned histograms that have been provided, and then I like to use the metric. So if I went in for idle airflow, clicked on that, I'm going to get the same thing up. It's going to basically give us a little bit of warning. And when we look at it, we're going to see that we have the kilograms per second. All right, obviously we want to change this to grams per second. Set this back to 2 or 3 clicks, depending on what kind of accuracy you're looking for. We'll go to 3. Same setup here as you would have to see. And the difference is we're missing the column axis. So what we need to do is we need to go get the temperature settings that we would want to see across the top of this new graph. And we do that by merely going into the edit file, going to the specific table that's associated with that, and that's right here, right? This is where the idle airflow in base running airflow is going to be. And we put the cursor inside one of the elements, we right click, we go down to column access, or axis, I keep saying access, it's axes, and it's going to say copy labels. So we're going to copy the labels, we're going to come back over to the chart, and we're going to then go to values, we're going to right click, it's going to say paste, and it's going to paste in the elements for us at this point. And as obviously we can see, this is Fahrenheit. So now we got to go pick up the parameter that would fit in there, and very simply that's going to be the parameter that's being identified within the channel. So we click on that, right? We're going to get to the parameter selector table. We're going to click the little gear so that it limits our visibility to just that which we have selected. And we can, if we don't know where it is, we can write engine temp, engine coolant temp, right? And it's going to pick out the one that we're looking for. As well, we can see we're using the SAE version, so we'll click on that. We'll keep it SAE just for now because this is something that we've already taken care of, but on other tutorials you'll see that we're trying to use more of the sensors to keep things universal, but for this example we'll just leave it SAE. And you can now see we have the engine coolant temp, you have the Fahrenheit, and you have all the things that you're looking for. And if we come up to the graph at this point, oh, that's right, sorry, so loud. And if we click on that, then you'll see we now have that table as well. So the idle tuning, or the base running airflow tuning that we do, obviously is done using the RUSK, what they call RUSK config. So the concept there is we basically start the vehicle when it's ice cold, hasn't been run at all, and we just kind of let it idle, right? We want to shut off the fans, We want to turn off anything that might add to the air, right? The AC should be off, things of that nature. And all we want to do is basically have the vehicle idle without touching the gas pedal, and we're going to collect the idle desired airflow across the entire operating temperatures. And we're going to run up to about 220, 230, depending on what kind of thermostat and fans you're running. But you want to get it well up to temperature, because the idea is we're going to populate these cells with the new values. And those values are being generated by virtue of the long-term and the short-term idle trims, and they're making adjustments to the base running airflow that you have to start with. So they're going to be making adjustments. So if I bring up the log that we were looking at previously, this is just an example of a log that I had used. You can see that we start out cold and the airflow is pretty high, and as we move along down, and as the temperature increases, obviously the need for air drops, and the long term and the short terms, right, when these get added together, will basically tell you what the error is, similar to long term and short term fuel trim cells when you're doing MAF tuning, right? So right now, if you added these both together, it would say that it's about 4.1 grams too much air. So if you looked at that temperature setting at 68, you'd see about 20.3 is what it should be. What we would expect to see in the tune would be something around 24, right? So this is going to create the new value that you're going to use to go into that table. So you're going to idle it, and you can see what happens as this idles, right? The temperature slowly goes up, temperature right here, and we just let it idle. We don't touch anything, we don't do anything, we just watch it. And eventually we're going to get up to, I forget how this goes up to, yeah, about a 196 is where this one stopped. All right, then we're going to shut down, and we're going to save the log, and we're going to have these values. And very simply, these values then are going to be basically copied, right? You're going to come back to your file. You're going to come into where we started at 68, right? And we were in gear at this point in time. We're basically going to right click. We're going to say paste. And those now become the new values for your tune. You would then interpolate these values coming out that you didn't happen to hit, knowing that normally what I would do is I would just carry the 10.3 across, right? And then coming up, you can interpolate just to kind of smooth this area in here. And then this would then be flashed into the vehicle, and unfortunately you couldn't do this right away, but you'd be able to go back the next day, or at least when it's really, it's got to cool down a lot. Usually it's a new day, and redo it and come up with new values. And you would do this one or two times to finally get the base idle to where it needed to be. So that's how you would do the base running airflow tuning using 3.0. Hope this answers all your questions. I hope it helps convert you over to 2.224 to 3.0. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And thank you so much for listening. And as I said, this is Ed Moten from ERM Performance Tuning, wishing you a great day. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye.